I'd like to share with you a section from Mesilas Yesharim taken from Perek Chaf Dalid, chapter 24, which can be found if you're in the Hebrew English on page 310. Otherwise, you could just look for 24 Chaf Dalid in whatever edition you're in. The topic is Beveyor Yirah Chet, concerning fear of sin. We know that the concept of fear of sin is basic to Judaism, concept of reward and punishment. And in addition to fear of sin, when we talk about fear of sin, we're really talking about excitement about getting rewarded for mitzvahs. It's really not just the punishment, but the reward and punishment dynamic, which is one level of motivation for mitzvah observance. We've heard in our time a lot of people telling the children, you do a mitzvah, you're going to put in another brick for the Beis HaMikdash. If you do another mitzvah, Mashiach's going to come sooner. Things like that. And I'll put that out as a brain teaser for the moment. Is that a reward, punishment, motivation type of thing? Or is it something greater or lesser when someone does something in order to bring Mashiach? What exactly does it mean to bring Mashiach closer because of your mitzvah? But let's begin with the Mesilas Yesharim, who writes in the very first paragraph of this chapter that Yirah Chet must be very, very great. Because whatever this fear of sin is, it only comes in the process, in the famous Brisa from Rabbi Pinchas ben Yair, it only comes in the process after all the other things that we've been discussing. So we've discussed Zehirus, Zerizus, how to be careful, how to be quick, how to pay attention, how to be nucky, clean. We discussed Chasidus, Precious, all kinds of things we discussed. And finally, at the end of all this long process is something called Yirah Chet, to fear Hashem. So obviously it's fairly great, and you got to be pretty big in order to reach this point. What exactly are we talking about? So in the second paragraph he writes, Omnam tzorich shenaktim, you need a little preface over here, and you need to be aware, ki minei hayira heim shenayim, that the types of fear that there are two. He actually goes further and says Shem Shlosha, there are actually three, but we're going to deal with two tonight. Harishona kala me'od lahasiga. The first one is very easy to achieve. We'll see how easy. Ein davar kal kamahu. According to Rabbi Litzato, there's nothing easier than the first level of Yirah Chet. And that's going to bear comment. The first level is the reward and punishment level, where a person realizes that this behavior is going to cause me either suffering, punishment, or reward in the next world, somehow in the future, and therefore that causes me to make good decisions. That's the first level of Yirah Chet. Now, just to deal with that for a moment, Rabbi Litzato says there's nothing easier than that. I would venture to say that, like he pointed out, this comes at the end of a long book. He says there's nothing easier than that, but it's very hard. There's a famous Gemara which tells us that when Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai was on his deathbed, his students asked him for a blessing, and he told them, I hope that you fear heaven the way you fear a king. So they said, that's it? These are his students. I mean, these people are motivated, lofty people. He says, Ulevai, If only. Because you see that people sin privately, they don't want anybody to know. And publicly, they're doing fine. They would never do that in public. Wouldn't it be funny if people would never say Lashon Hara in public? That would be funny. But most mitzvahs, you might get a person privately to lose his guard and but I wouldn't want anybody catching me eating from that hashgacha. Privately, bend the rules a little bit. I wouldn't want my kids to see that. Wouldn't want my friends to see that. So Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai said, if only people in the privacy of their homes would be the way they are in public, that would already be a big step of fearing Hashem. It's a big step. It comes after a long book. But the Mesilas Yesharim still says that that's easy. That's still, because we're in tune. You give me a candy, I'll behave. You're going to slap me across the face? I won't do that. Not a good idea. In the classroom setting, I'll call your mother and your father. And if the teacher's really angry, they say, and both your parents. We understand reward and punishment. Now, there's another observation that's important to make regarding reward and punishment. It's a little bit of a brain teaser. Your body, let's keep it simple, wants to eat something that it's not supposed to eat according to Jewish law. Okay? It's not kosher, or it's not so kosher. What's holding you back from eating it according to this simple level of Yirah Chet? What's holding you back?
I'm afraid of punishment.
You're afraid of punishment. When? Your body?
Anytime.
Simple Judaism is your soul is going to get punished. Your body is going to do the sin. Your soul is going to get punished. Now, it's true that some sins get punished in this world as well. And many times, the sin itself causes the person to lose out, and reward is the same thing, that even though reward is really in the next world, but there are all kinds of side benefits in this world, and reward puts you in a good place, etc. But very simple, basic Judaism, before we get sophisticated and realize mitzvahs are good and averos are bad. But before that, what's the concept? If my body does this, then my soul will get punished. I ask you, what's holding my body back from doing the sin? Because my soul's going to get punished? So let my soul get punished. What does it have to do with me? So my soul will get punished. I mean, if I told you, if you eat this cheeseburger, your distant cousin in California will get punished. Is that going to hold you back from eating the cheeseburger if you're really hungry and you really want it? Your distant cousin in California? Let him suffer! What does it got to do with me? So if your soul's going to get punished in the next world, I don't mean to be callous or anything, but the aroma coming from this food is motivational. What's holding me back? On the topic of Lashon Hara, we can be very blunt. It's juicy. It's going to make me feel good to say it. It'll make the people around me laugh. So it'll be at someone's expense, but that someone is not here right now. So, they live in town. They might find out what I said about them, but I could always slap them on the back and say it was just a practical joke. Why wouldn't I say it?
It creates negativity.
Okay, you've been hanging around here too long. The side effects of Lashon Hara. But let's stick with real basic Judaism. You're right, it creates negativity. But let's stick with the basics of Judaism. Your soul will get punished. Really get punished.
Well, the soul is...
The Vilna Gaon talks real serious about what kind of punishments, right?
But the soul is regulating the body. So it's the soul guarding itself from future punishment.
Good. So the soul is very motivated to stop you from speaking Lashon Hara, because if the soul can stop you, if your conscience, your soul, your neshama can stop you from speaking Lashon Hara, then it will spare itself pain in the future because it did its job. And if it didn't do its job, then it will get punished. So therefore, it is stopping you from doing the wrongdoing. That's a big step for mankind, what you've just done, but it's still very weak, because that's very well why the soul is trying to regulate me, but I'm still me, and I still have my drives, and I still have what I want to do, and why would I listen to my soul? My soul will get punished. Okay, distant cousin, you'll get punished. I feel badly for you, but you know, there's sometimes that I'm willing to make sacrifices for other people, and sometimes I'm not. And this happens to be one of those times that I'm not quite sure. What's the ultimate answer? Ultimate answer is to take your concept one step further and realize, who are you? Point to yourself. So we start pointing. Point to our heart, we point to our mind, we point to ourselves generally. And on a sophisticated level, all of that is wrong, because you are your soul. So it's not your soul is trying to regulate your body. You are your soul. Your soul is not regulating you. You are your soul. You are trying to regulate your body. In Kabbalah, it's described as a horse and a rider. So the horse is the body, the animalistic. The only way you can be in this world, physical world, is with a physical body. But you are a spiritual essence. And you are like the rider riding on the horse, giving the commands. If you have control of the horse, then your commands will be heeded. If you don't have control of the horse, then it's one wild ride. If you really have control of the horse, you could even give a verbal command. If you don't have such good control, so it's gotta, you gotta pull on the reins a little bit. Gotta give a good kick in the back in order to have the zrizus, the speed that's necessary to go ahead and do the mitzvah. A little kick. But you are the rider. I'll give you one mashal, which I think really brings out the theme and answers our question. There was a particular week that I had here in Cherry Hill that I knew was going to be a very difficult travel week. I had to be in North Jersey, I had to be in Lakewood, I had to be in Baltimore for a conference, back in Cherry Hill, and I decided I'm not taking my own car, I'm going to rent a car. So I reserved economy, and I go into the rental car place, and they tell me that the car that I reserved is not available, but they're offering me a triple upgrade. Triple upgrade. And I confirm at no extra charge. Sounds good. They take me out to see the car, and it is a sports car with all the trimmings and all the extras. And I look at it and I say, sir, excuse me, I don't think this is going to work. And he says, oh, sure, no problem, but we don't have any other cars right now.
I'm sorry?
So I said, are you sure? I don't think this is something I can do. He says, we really don't have anything else. If you want, you can come back in a few hours. Now, I'm on a time schedule, and I had no choice. And I told him, okay, so show me how it works. So he shows me, there's the ignition, and he shows me, there's the sunroof, and he shows me, and he shows me, and fine. I get into the car, and first stop is a meeting in Lakewood, in the yeshiva building. And of course, I'm listening to my CDs, and I'm totally have forgotten what car I'm driving. And as habit would have it, I pull up right in front of the yeshiva building looking for a spot of someone who may have gone out, and I'll get a spot, even the place is packed, and find a spot. And I'm pulling in parallel parking, and my window is closed, but I can tell that some of my friends who are standing out there are starting to motion in the direction of the car, in my direction, and they're commenting. And as I finish parking and I open the door, I hear them saying loudly, loud enough that I can hear it, "Oh, so this is what happens to people who become rabbis out of town. This is the type of car they drive. No wonder." And I am screaming inside, "This is not me. It's only a rental car. It's not me. It's a rental car. Don't you understand?" That's the difference between the body and the soul. The soul is you. The body is the car. If the body doesn't listen to you, it's like that nightmare where the brakes aren't working and the acceleration is locked in place. This is not the body going for a joyride and the soul will be punished. This is all about you. You are the soul, and the body is out of control. You mean the body is saying things that according to the owner's manual it should not be saying? Are not good for me. You mean the body's going faster, slower? It's a car out of control? Who's going to suffer?
Yeah.
Me.
So why does it feel good if it's bad for the soul?
Because when the soul has been placed in the body, it has sensations. It feels the body's enjoyment. It feels good when I touch here. Now, it may not be good to touch here, but it feels good. It feels good to taste that food. It feels good to be in the company of those people. But if the soul knows that this is not good for me, then it's the proverbial joyride. It feels good to be doing 90 around the bend. It really does. I don't know what your mother told you. it really does feel good to be doing 90 around the bend. And for the back of the car, assuming it's not yours, to slam against the guardrail as you hit the accelerator. It feels good. It's not good for you, but it feels good. And that mix of emotion is exactly what the human condition is about. Hashem wanted to give us free choice. There's the body, and there's the soul. But in order to understand the lower level of Yiras Chet, fearing sin, a person has to be ready to appreciate that it's not some distant cousin called the soul that's going to get punished. It's me who's the soul. It's therefore me who's going to get punished. And the body which was given to me is that car or horse. That's the vehicle to transport myself through this world. You can't give tzedakah if you're a soul. There has to be a wallet, a pocketbook, a checkbook. There has to be a hand. There has to be a desire to keep the money for yourself because you have needs. A soul doesn't need money. There have to be needs. And you have to decide to look beyond your own needs and take that hand and write the check and give it to the other person who is needy. That's the process. And that entire process, regardless of which mitzvah we apply it to, that's the process of the human condition, and that's the role of Torah to be the guidebook for us to tell us how to proceed in life. Yiras Chet presupposes that we understand all this, that we understand who we are. It's a very sophisticated comment. It's a lifelong endeavor, idea to identify yourself by who you really are. Some people never get it until, God protect us, but until terminal illness, or until a handicap sets in, and then they start sorting it out. And if they have a wise social worker, the social worker will inform them, well, you still have family, you still have love, you still have you. I still have me, but I'm a shadow of my former self. No, you still have you. The body is a shadow of its former self, but you're still you. That's a dramatic concept. If we take a step further and look for meaning in that suffering at the end of life, right? Yaakov Avinu is the one who davened that people should get ill before they die. In its own way, it's considered a blessing, because you get a warning. But it's also a development, because as long as the person is in perfectly good health, it's hard to identify with who the real you is. And the real you transcends your physical capabilities. In its own way, it's a good thing. If you're ultimately trying to come in touch with yourself, so sometimes it might be necessary. Again, God protect us. We don't wish it. But it has its role. Yiras ha'onesh kipshuta in the third paragraph is a person's awareness that there is reward and punishment. And likewise in the positive. It's not that if I do the mitzvah or refrain from the avera, then some distant cousin is going to get rewarded. That's really nice. If I get up for the minyan in the morning, then a cousin of mine in California who I don't know, I once met, but I'd never recognized him on the street. He's going to be given $1,000 for every day that I get up on time for minyan. I don't know about you, but I'm not sure my distant cousin in California that I wouldn't recognize on the street getting $1,000 is enough of a motivation to get me up in the morning. Not on a rough day. What's the answer? It's not a distant cousin in California that I wouldn't recognize. I don't know if you'd recognize yourself in the mirror, because I don't know if we would recognize, but you would know it's you. You would know it's you, and you are your soul. And the reward is going to be going to you.
I thought that the body is the vessel for the soul, and it's it kind of represents the soul. You're supposed to, take care of it in such a way that it is an honorable place for the soul to be.
You have said it so beautifully. Let me mirror what you've just said. The body is a vessel for the soul, right? A vase is a vessel for the flowers. What is it all about? It's all about the flowers, right? It's a vessel, and it's your job to recognize the gift of life as so treasured, because angels can't do mitzvahs. Angels cannot become greater. Only a human being has the conflict between body and soul, and it can become greater. Only the human being wants to say Lashon Hara and has to control himself. And you should recognize the absolute gift of physicality, and therefore treasure it, stay healthy, excuse me, take a shower, make sure you look presentable, because your body is a major gift. Your soul could never grow if it didn't have a body. It's only because you have physicality that your soul can take a step forward. That's amazing. That's something to treasure. Angels can't do that. But ultimately, what is this all about? It's about your soul. That's why, by the way, regardless of what the cardinal sins are, that's not even our topic, but there has to be, in the system called Judaism, there has to be something that is so severe that it'll violate the soul so deeply that it's better to give up your life and not do that to your soul. And we know what they are, Avodah Zarah, Gilui Arayos, Shfichas Dam, but it's not even important for our discussion what they are. Just to be aware, right? Killing somebody else to save my own life, for example, you can't do that. But it's not even important what the example is. There has to be something, because that's what makes it clear that the body is only there for the soul to be elevated. And there is going to be an example where preserving the body is not beneficial to the soul. It's such a destructive act that you're not going to do it. Mafia comes over to somebody, God forbid, and says, bump him off. No, I don't do that. Well then, your life is chopped meat. What does the person answer? I still can't kill the person for you. I still can't do it. Why? Why not? Because the Torah says so, I understand. But what's the essence of the message? That would be so detrimental to my soul that it's no longer, I have to stand on principle at this point. Again, not because we make up the rules. The Torah makes up what we're supposed to be doing. Torah tells us, but that's the principle. The principle is that it wasn't about the body, ever. It was always about the soul. And certain things so violate the soul that there's nothing to talk about. So let's see the text, third paragraph. Yirah ha'onesh kipshuta, fear of sin, simply. Sha'adam yira me'avar es pi Hashem Elokav. A person is afraid of violating Hashem's words, mipnei ha'onshim asher lo averos, because of the punishment that comes because of sin. And likewise, that's the motivator for them to do good, the reward that will come to them. Skip to the next paragraph. Hamin hasheni hu yiras haromamos. But a step above this is fear of Hashem's greatness. This is what we call awesomeness until the word was violated by the hamburger, which is awesome. But until then, the word awesome still had meaning. That, by the way, is a trend you will notice. Advertisers try to tap in to high spiritual concepts in order to make people feel satisfied, even though their item has nothing to do with it at all. They will use the word love. Love! You like the word love? It has a good ring to it. If you buy this car, you will experience love. If you think about it, it's disgusting. Because there are people who are very unsuspecting and walk right into it. A hamburger is awesome. Okay. If something in you is searching for awesomeness, you'll find it here. But, again, before the word was violated, you had awe, hero worship, which is also a word that's I mean, it's there, but it's violated before it even started. Hero worship is to watch the basketball player slam the ball. Hero worship ought to be someone who truly reveres somebody greater than them, who they wish they could emulate in any way possible. My mentor. I'm just so awed by the way they keep their composure, even when they're under stress. How they can be benevolent even to someone who violates them. Yeah, great qualities to be in awe of such a being. Lo ya'asem, you don't want to violate them. You know why? Mipnei kivodo hagadol yisparach shemo, because of Hashem's absolute greatness. This is not about me anymore. Not about my soul. Not about good and bad. Punishment, reward. It's about recognizing my respect for Hashem and wanting to do His will. And that's a step enormously higher than the self-serving, be good so that you get rewarded, don't do bad so you don't get punished. It's all about me. This is already a respect for Hashem, and I want to please Him. I want to do His will. Some of us have that feeling for our parents. We just want to make them happy. Some people, don't have that sense, and they just do it because it's the right thing to do. But whoever it is in your life that you really would like to please is a mashal for this type of feeling. Now, going back to our interesting question in the beginning, and again, might have to leave it as a brain teaser, but when we do mitzvahs to make Mashiach come, I shouldn't say we, when people do it, because it's not a universally agreed motivator in the Jewish world, but there are certain sects who really believe in it, do a mitzvah to make Mashiach come. Is that the first type or the second type of Yiras Shamayim? of Yirah Chet.
The first type.
Why? Why are you saying it's the first type?
Because the reward is that Mashiach will come.
Right, and why do you want Mashiach to come?
So the world will be a better place.
Well, very good. So the world will be a better place and easier to live. That's all about me. Right? When I say me, the proverbial me. You want Mashiach to come because it'll make life easier for us. No more rockets raining down on Sderot. Mashiach's here! Yeah? Okay. There's another perspective that you could have for trying to bring Mashiach, which is what we daven for in Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur davening. It'll be the day that Hashem's reign will be recognized. And Hashem will no longer have to hide. Hashem will be revealed. Everybody will realize, V'yatu shechem echad le'avdecha, they'll all shoulder the responsibility, they'll turn themselves to Hashem. Hashem echad, u'shmo echad, Hashem is one, His name is one. Everybody will turn to the Beis HaMikdash, to Yerushalayim, to pay tribute to Hashem. Is that all about me? No, that's the higher level. So it really depends what your motivator to bring Mashiach is. Any questions? No? Okay. So let's move on to the Shmiras HaLashon component. Rechilus, Laws of Chavetz Chaim, Chapter 7, Paragraph 2, a quick translation. The laws of Rechilus apply even to someone who is ignorant, because that person also is Jewish and they're protected by the laws of Rechilus. What is Rechilus again? Relating information about this person, even if it's true, even if it does not mean that he did anything wrong, but it will cause hard feelings. Hard feelings to him because his privacy was violated, or hard feelings to somebody else because they just found out something about him, even though it's not wrong, but it bothers them, it hurts them, it makes them uncomfortable. Therefore, even if you see that this person clearly maligned someone else for no reason, and the person spoken about was right, you're still not allowed to repeat what he did, because we discussed Rechilus is even when the person is saying the truth. Likewise, it's forbidden to speak Rechilus about what a Torah scholar did. In fact, the Chavetz Chaim elaborates and says that for a number of reasons, speaking what a Torah scholar did is even worse. Number one, because there's some falsehood mixed in. If he's truly a Torah scholar, then he probably had a motivation, a reason why he was doing whatever he was doing. And unless you say the whole story and the motivator, etc., the mitigating circumstance, as we call it, you're basically painting half the picture, which is a very negative way. Rav Schwab once spoke to an ethics convention of Jewish accountants, and his comment was he doesn't understand why anyone can say that a frum person stole money. Thank God it doesn't happen too often, but occasionally some frum person gets mixed in with a bad scheme. He says he doesn't know how you say that a frum person was mixed in with a bad scheme, because if he was mixed in with the bad scheme, then he's not frum. Wait, he keeps Shabbos, but he doesn't keep the laws of Midvar Shaker Tirchok, stay away from falsehood. So then he's not frum, he's not observant. So how can you say an observant person did it? He's not observant by definition. When you say a person is truly a Torah scholar, so it's only one of two things. Either he had a reason for doing it, there's an explanation, or he's either not a Torah scholar or he made a very big mistake. But unless he's willing to go the route of big mistake, he's either not a Torah scholar or he's a Torah scholar with a reason. And therefore, to relate that information without checking into it is an example of serious rechilus. Number 2, the Chafetz Chaim quotes, the relationship you're supposed to have with a Torah scholar is a favorable one. The wording of Chazal is to eat, drink together, to do business together, to honor him, to marry his daughter. Obviously, the Torah is looking for you to have a good relationship. And rechilus is creating animosity. It's the exact opposite of what the Torah described as proper. And number 3, if a person hears that an ordinary person said badly, that's one thing. But if you're being told that the Torah scholar said badly about it, and again, rechilus is, it may be true, but nothing wrong was done, but it hurts. Boy, is it going to hurt. And if it's someone of prestige, rabbi of the city, then it becomes enormously serious as to what animosity you're creating. They say that the reason that the Chafetz Chaim chose the topic of Shmiras HaLashon as a life crusade is because in his youth he saw a community torn apart because of Lashon Hara. And when he saw it, he was just stunned and he couldn't quite get over it. You're talking about a man who walked around with this for 90 years, knowing the destructive potential when a person loses control, either intellectually or physically, of their mouth. They don't realize what they're allowed to say and what they're not allowed to say and implement that properly. Person has to always maintain control and think before we speak. Any comments?
Where do the laws of Lashon Hara come from? Is it directly from Torah? There's so many in the book of Chaim. How did there get to be so many?
So what the Chafetz Chaim did was truly genius, is he went through all of Jewish literature, analyzed it, and put it together in a codified way so that you could actually reference, based on the chapters, what are the laws pertaining to this aspect of speech. Where did he get it from? He got it from the Psukim and he got it from the Gemaras. The Gemaras are relating what the rules for ethical speech are, what's considered gossip, and under what circumstances are you allowed to speak. Everything that the Chafetz Chaim wrote, he documented carefully. So that, for example, in the story of Korach, where Moshe sends a messenger to speak to Korach, and the response is negative. We don't want to come and make peace. So you see, number 1, that Moshe, even though he was under attack, he still looked to make peace. Number 2, you see that the messenger of Bezdin is allowed to report back. Usually 1 person, you're not allowed to report back. Even 2 people, unless there's some constructive, you're going to take action or something. They're witnesses. Just to relate things, you're not allowed to do. But if he's a shliach Bezdin, Bezdin has to know where they're standing, what the next move is supposed to be. So a shliach Bezdin is allowed to report back. So the Chafetz Chaim uses this in the footnotes. He always documents every one of his rulings.
Because I'm just wondering what you're saying. He wrote it because he saw so many people lose control of how they spoke, but they probably just didn't know.
So what do you do if people don't know and they're destroying themselves?
No, I think what we were
Educate them.
Was it as widely known before Chafetz Chaim?
No, it wasn't.
Okay.
Even though it was not widely known, even though it's all there. It's like in every generation you find that there's a certain mitzvah that people are not being diligent enough about. In the words of Jewish expression. It's called a meis mitzvah, a mitzvah that has gone dead, that people are not paying attention to. And every generation has its own meis mitzvah. Not enough Torah study, not enough tzedakah, not enough this, not enough that. You always have, right? And sometimes when someone comes up with something new, so to speak, you want to know, is this something new? Or is this a chumrah? Or is this straightforward law that we just weren't paying attention to? I know a family who was ostensibly observant, basically, Shama Shabbos, very respectable. They sent their kids to yeshiva. And one day, the kids, I don't know, 7th, 8th grade, kids come home and say, Ma, did we ever take the glasses to mikveh? Did we tovel them before they went into the cabinet and we've been using them? And the mother said, not exactly. I kind of knew this day would eventually come. If you want to help Dad and myself, I guess we could do it now. That's an example of spiritual growth. That, you know, the person didn't do it, and it took time, but they knew the score. And it's just a question of, can you motivate me? Can you remind me? Can the right time, the right formula happen so that I do the mitzvah? No one's denying, if you go through the documentation, there's no question that Shmiras HaLashon is a vital part of Judaism. But because it is so far-reaching, Shulchan Aruch didn't even mention it in an actual chapter heading. It's mentioned, by the way, on the chapter of running your business and daily affairs. It mentions, and you're not allowed to speak Lashon Hara. It's a little bit like the Mechitza, that there's no specific chapter in Shulchan Aruch that talks about Mechitza, because it's just such a part of Jewish life that you have to start going into the midst of the chapters and find, well, there's a statement here, and there's a statement there, and you start realizing, yeah, of course, these are rules, but they weren't considered the necessary focus to preach on during certain generations. And the result is that other generations where we find that we're being lax and you can't take it for granted, we have to address it properly. And Baruch Hashem, in our generation, we're taking it head on and addressing it as necessary.
It seems like you need an addendum to the Shulchan Aruch.
So that's, every generation has to clarify. As long as it can be well documented, it's fine. Okay. Thank you for joining, and have a wonderful week.